Paternite and Garrison to join us. Welcome. Thank you. We're going to jump right into a conversation about partnerships. Are you already mic'd up or no? Nope. All right. So while you're getting mic'd up, I'm going to introduce you guys by way of video.
I'm Amy Paternite.
And I'm Garrison. And together,
we're the Good Life Group. We joined forces to build something bigger than ourselves, to provide a concierge experience for our clients.
We are the supporters, problem solvers, and creative thinkers. We are your early morning text, afternoon phone call, and late night email.
We learned that if we work hard and are transparent with our clients, we earn their loyalty and trust. That's why our business is word of mouth and referral based.
Our secret sauce? Leveraging our combined experience and expertise, creating a culture of joy and growth that celebrates community and collaboration. We live, work, and love it here.
While real estate is our profession, our true passion is helping our clients achieve their goals with total confidence. The good life starts here.
All right. So that was their team video, and give me 1 second so I can move to the next slide. This is their team. First of all, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. This, I got to tell you, like this particular session has, a special place for me more so than most. And the reason why is I feel like the three of us have kind of grown in real estate together, is maybe the best way to say that. When I started in Maplewood, which was my first management job, and I came over, the office was really in a pretty weak place. Like it was, we had one agent in particular that was doing a tremendous amount of the production in the office. And he was somebody that I wouldn't say was loved by everybody there, is the truth of it. And I think that what happened from there is he shortly thereafter left. And he had represented about 44%, 43.7% if I'm being exact, of our overall production. And so then it was really a rebuilding project in Maplewood. And it was like, all right, I took over this office, I'm going out and building it. And the first thing that any manager in here, anybody who has management experience in real estate knows is you need to find cornerstones of the office. You need to find the people that you could build around. And, these two were certainly that. They were, the people that I knew that I could trust. I knew that they had the skill set to grow in real estate. They weren't like rock star top producing agents at the time by any means. But I just felt like these were two people that I know could be that. And, we've been together for, almost 15 years. And we've watched that office, the Maplewood office, and then beyond. But we've watched the Maplewood office. We do probably about 13 times as much production today as we did back then, and that's even after the loss of our top producers. So we've grown and grown and grown. You've brought in some amazing people through relationships that you guys have had, and I think that that's a testament to the business that you've grown and the culture that we've built. But then I also think that on a personal level, gotten to know you in a million different ways. Ben and I have run many marathons together. He always kicks my ass, and which is he's just an impressive runner.
And he's much older. Well,
I love it. You led me into what I'm about to say. The first compliment that Amy ever gave me was, just because I don't always like you doesn't mean I don't like you.
It's true. He keeps it on a Post-it note.
I do have it on. She wrote it on a Post-it note, and I kept it in my office forever. And I mention that because, listen, I don't think anybody would argue, yourself included, you have a tough outer shell at times, but a heart of gold. And, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you guys have done for me in my career and the atmosphere that we created together. So appreciate you. I'm also, and I'd be remiss to say this, I'm so proud of your maturation through the years. because a big part of this conversation and the reason why I have pages of questions to ask you is because I watched the development of two people who really didn't have a business, and then you created this, not only a business, but a business that most people in this room would trade places with you in a heartbeat for. And I don't mean just the production, I also mean the systems. I also mean, just the way you guys carry yourself within the business. It's really something special. So congratulations to you, first of all. And we have a lot of questions, so I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So first thing I'd love to go into is just origin stories. I think it's always helpful to know, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, type of thing. So just talk to me about, what, both of you, your origin stories are individually, and then we'll get into the collective group.
I guess I'll go first. So I'm.
Got theme music.
I know, right? So I grew up in New York, and I'm a musician. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston and the University of Buffalo, and and then I moved to New York, and my first job was, I worked in the music industry for quite a while. I actually got my first job cold calling, and I guess that was premonition. Didn't realize, but it was back in the day when people would answer their phones, and I cold called. It was Verve Records, which is a jazz imprint of Polygram, and I started out in publicity and was a publicity assistant there. And I went on to work for independent PR firms, handled tour press for big artists like Bruce Springsteen, Wynton Marsalis, Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, did a lot of jazz clubs. And then when I was 26, I went out on my own and started my own independent PR firm, which was great. And then we moved to Jersey in 2003 with two little kids after I saw September 11th out my window. Oh, sorry, no negative. But moved to New Jersey, and then kind of saw, and was still working in independent PR. I had clients, on retainers. So I was, I had two kids, and you can't, when you're working on retainer, you can't say like, well, I'm working for you October, November, December. By the way, maternity leave, January, February, March, and I'll be back. So I always joke that it was a good thing my younger one was born on a Friday, because on Monday I was back on the phones. But I guess, yeah, the moral story is I was always an entrepreneur, and,
You're good.
What was that? Yeah, sorry. And whatever. I'm married for almost 30 years and have two great kids. One who just graduated from Columbia Medical School, so I have a little doctor in the family now.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. My younger daughter just graduated from the University of Maryland. So yeah. Then.
Yeah. So I also grew up in New York City on the Upper West Side. As a lifelong New Yorker, I would never, ever, ever move to New Jersey.
Oh yeah, me too.
So of course, that's exactly what happened.
Never say never.
But yeah, I always had a passion for music as well. Always, made a lot of music growing up. And when I graduated from college, I really wanted to get a job in music production, but I had no idea how to do that. Ended up living in London after that, and I basically just got the Association of Professional Recording Studios book, called all the studios in London, said, I had a restaurant job working at night. I said, I'll work for free. One studio said, fine. They had me come over. I basically was painting the bathrooms, scraping off 10 euros of masking tape from the drum stands and things like that. And after about 6 weeks, they said, we want to put you on staff. And so then I basically eventually, through that, became an assistant engineer and then a recording engineer. Moved back to New York after 2.5 years, continued to work there. And then for about 17, 18 years, I was basically a recording engineer, working on, recording and mixing albums for platinum artists, getting to travel all over the world. So it was like my dream.
So just for fun, what kind of artists did you work with?
I mean, a lot. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Mary J. Blige, Aaliyah, Brandy and Monica, Biggie Smalls.
Some people you never heard of, right?
So, Yeah, so it was honestly, it was my dream job. And then, got married, it was still great. Once we had our first kid, then it became an issue because the lifestyle was kind of relentless. You go to LA for a month, you stay for 2 months. I reached a point where I kind of felt like I was losing my family in a way. And so my wife went back to work, and then I became a stay-at-home dad. And we had a second, moved to Maplewood in 2004, had a third. And so for 9 years, I was basically the stay-at-home parent, which was, an adjustment after having a kind of sexy, cool job, But honestly, I felt so grateful to have this relationship with my kids that, a lot of, I think, fathers don't necessarily have. So that was awesome. When my youngest went to kindergarten, I was like, Dad wants to go back to work. So that's when I got my real estate license. And and it's been really great for me too, ever since. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. So short and sweet question, how long have you been in real estate?
Approaching 20 years.
16, yeah, I started in 2009.
So we were Rookie of the Years together.
We were Rookie of the Years at Bergdorf. We didn't even know each other, but we were on the same stage together.
It's true, 20 years almost. And so the question is how long has it been since you joined forces?
So we officially launched the group in November of 2022, but it started in January of 2022.
I think that this is, I asked you those two questions because they kind of set one another up in the sense that I find it really interesting, and for context, because everybody in here doesn't know you, you guys were both top producing agents when you joined forces. And you had been doing real estate for 10 plus years at that point, each of you, and it's kind of a rare thing to see actually. I think that most people that are at the point in their career that you guys were at don't necessarily decide to join forces because you feel like, oh, I'm a solo agent, I'm killing it. Why do I need to be a partnership? So what do you think pushed you in that direction?
Well, speaking for myself, during COVID, I was having one of my best years ever, super busy, really productive. But at the same time, I felt very isolated, pretty lonely. And that's when, for me, that's when I really started to feel like I really wanted to find someone that I could partner with to create something bigger than myself. But I was very clear that I didn't want to create like the Garrison team, and I didn't want to join somebody else's team. I wanted to create something that would stand apart from me and whoever else I partnered with. And I honestly never considered Amy because Amy already had the Amy Paternite team, so I just assumed that meant, she was, off limits. And then, we were doing a seminar, like a luxury training program together.
Yeah, we were doing a global luxury luncheon at my house. Actually, Caroline was there and another agent. And when we were, so we were hosting this luncheon because everything was, for COVID, everything was virtual. So we wanted to do the global luxury training certified for Global Banker. And so I hosted it at my house. And then after, Ben was just helping me, as he always, is the mensch that he is, helping me clean up from lunch. And we were talking and just about how like great years we're having in real estate, but how it's very isolating, it's very lonely. You're working, and especially COVID, like the office is shut down. I set up an office in my house and you're with yourself a lot of the time, and it can become, it becomes isolating and lonely. And when I said, like, would you ever consider teaming up? Yeah, he was just like, with me? Like, So yeah, and then, we were just thinking of like how we can do it, because I did have Amy Paternite Homes, and I had two agents, like I think I started maybe 2018 or 2019, and I had two agents that, kind of like worked for me, but it wasn't the right fit. It just wasn't the right fit. They weren't driven, and I always felt like and Michael was always on me to start a team, like forever. And I always said, I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's livelihood. Like, it's too much pressure. And I think you can't want it for someone more than they want it for themselves. And that's why we are so incredibly lucky to have the incomparable Sarah Brown. But rock star is going to kick our ass. It's this year. She's on fire. But yeah, starting the Good Life group, when I was sort of like researching, like Ben was saying, we wanted to come up with something that was kind of bigger than ourselves and something that we could sort of like leave a legacy and have things, done like the Good Life group way. It doesn't have to be the Amy Paternite way or the Ben Garrison way, but if we can establish a way that's like the Good Life group protocol, so then, when Sarah goes on an appointment or something, it's in the Good Life group way. That's kind of what we were, achieving. And then the Good Life group was just kind of like a fun, name, like who doesn't want the good life, It's just like, and every time you say like the good life, it's just, it just kind of, it makes you smile, like, yeah, who doesn't want the good life? And there's so many ways, welcome to the good life, and the good life starts here, and just so many little catchy phrases we can use.
So I'm going to interject here because I was blown away when you guys decided you wanted to become a team together in a good way, just to be clear. And the interesting thing is like it's just rare when you see two top producing agents that decide, hey, we're going to join forces. But in your particular case, even more so than that was the personalities. Because you guys, I know you've been friends forever and all, we've always been close, but you're very different people. Like, and in good ways and bad, like, you're very good people, but you're different in terms of like how you operate. So talk to us about the complement that you were to one another and the strengths that you brought together.
Well, when Amy, asked me if I'd be interested in partnering, I was thrilled because, I've always liked and respected Amy tremendously over the years. And as Michael mentioned, I feel like the culture of our office, I feel like the three of us were very integral in just kind of making that happen. But to your point, I was also really excited because I'm the first to admit that there's areas in my, skill set that are lacking. And I felt like Amy was an awesome fit for me because I feel like our skill sets are very complementary. And the things that were strengths for her, I knew were things that were going to make me a better person and a better agent and a more productive agent. So I was just really excited because I knew that Amy would bring a skill set of mastery of systems, organization. I've never really had like an entrepreneurial mindset. When I got into real estate, for me it was more about like really enjoying all the marketing, being approach that creatively, and just helping people. The kind of the joy that you get from either helping someone sell a house for top dollar or helping them find a home that's going to be like change their life hopefully. But in and around that, I knew that Amy was going to basically make me a better agent and a better person. So I was thrilled.
I mean, so yeah, we've been good friends for a long time. We have like a little local group of Maplewood, South Orange friends that we've gotten together over the years and have just kind of like masterminded and talked about stuff. And like I said, I never wanted to be responsible for somebody else's livelihood. And I also realized I didn't want to do everything alone. It's hard. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibility. But at the same time, there is no one in this world in real estate, I mean, I guess besides Michael, but that I trust more than Ben Garrison. I mean, the trust factor is like paramount. And when I said it to Ben, I mean, it wasn't even something that I was like, I know like Ben kind of was, talking to other, agents, previously and thinking about like what path he wanted to take. It never occurred to me until the moment it occurred to me, like in my kitchen saying like, hey, you want to do this? Like, and if he said, no, that's all right. Like, nothing, like I didn't have a plan B. Like there wasn't like another agent that I was thinking of because although there are a lot of really talented and great agents in our office, it's finding that right fit is so hard. You can't have somebody that's the same as you. You can't have, you can't have type A. You can't have a high D, like you can't have this, otherwise you're gonna always be, clashing. So, Ben and I are just so complementary to each other, our styles. I mean, and we had to like, of course, work on it on like listing appointments and stuff. And I have to, like be careful. Like we don't want to step on each other's toes. We don't want to talk over each other. I mean, and I've definitely like kicked Ben under the table at listing agreements and, listing appointments, because sometimes, when the client agrees, like, stop talking,
So we're going to get to that in 1 second, but I think I'm just going to highlight something. I can't tell you how many times agents have come to me throughout the years and say, we have a great idea, we're going to partner. And I'm like, I'll look at them and I'll realize this is not a good idea. Like, just knowing the skill sets that they have, knowing the people that they are, knowing the control that they want on their business, so to speak. And what I usually will do is I'll go through the exercise that I go through every time. And by the way, I would do this if I felt like 2 agents were the perfect fit, or if I feel like 2 agents are the worst fit, because like, who am I to say? Like, ultimately it's their decision. You guys are, independent contractors. And the first thing that I'll go through is, great, let's write up the divorce agreement. And they'll say, well, what do you mean? Like, we're writing up a prenup. Like, what does this look like if it doesn't work out? And I got to tell you, like, if you're considering doing partnerships, like, you should always do that exercise, just to be clear. But with these 2, I don't even think we ever finished that exercise. Is the God's
We're
honest
never
truth.
getting divorced.
Yeah, and I don't say that to undermine the fact that you probably, not you guys, but just in general, I think it's a good thing to do. But it was just really a fit. Like the more we got talking about it and we got together and we were just kind of like going through things, it made a lot of sense. But even though it made a lot of sense, what I want to go back to is there's always apprehension. So anybody in here who's considering partnership of any sort, you're going to have some apprehension. I would love you to talk to us about, like, what did you feel like you needed to mentally overcome in order to even join forces? Like, what did you view as the hurdles? And and what you needed to, like, all right, this is a challenge that we have to figure out.
Well, I think one thing is just letting go of having control over everything, right? I think as a solo agent, especially when you've had success, there's the tendency to think everything that you need to know, and no one can do it better than you. And actually, in working through our vision and our value, core values for the Good Life Group, that was something else that was really helpful in collaborating with Amy. Is just like she's really helpful to me in terms of like learning to let go, delegate, and create a process that we can trust, so that to basically free up more time for ourselves to be doing more cost-effective things. And I don't know about you, Amy, but I once we actually committed to working together, we spent about a year really like trying to figure out like what's our brand going to be, what are our values, what's our vision, what's our logo, and the website. And I actually found that whole process to be really exciting and inspiring, because I really felt like we weren't rushing into it. We were really kind of dedicated to creating something substantial. And I don't know, like obviously I was nervous, when we officially announced and we were doing this. There's always a little bit of fear, but mostly I was just really excited and
Amy,
energized.
Before I get to you, I just want to tap in real quick. A year. I mean, I got to be honest with you, like, and I say this respectfully, but most people in here don't spend a year on their business doing anything. Like, it's just the truth. And I know what Ben's saying is spot on, because I was involved in so many of these conversations over the course of time. I mean, they really analyzed everything related to their business and figured out best practices between them and figured out the branding and figured out all these different things. And I'll let you speak to that because I'm sure you will. But I just think that, like, when you think of a partnership, you're creating a business. Like, yes, you have your own business, but you're creating something that doesn't exist, together. And, I give you guys the utmost credit because you treated it like a business. You treated it like we are creating a company and creating something that doesn't exist today together. And that's why it was as successful, I believe, as it has been.
Yeah, I mean, and literally, it was every day Ben came over to, because I set up an office in my house. I mean, and it was hours, hours and hours on end. And we must have spent 10,000 hours getting our website together. It was such a long, arduous process. And we met with this like marketing guru person that I connected with through like Seth Godin. I don't know if any of you follow Seth Godin, but incredible author and about marketing. This is Marketing is one of his great books. But we spent so much time. But I think part of my fear in the beginning was like, I'm kind of a workaholic, and my daughter jokes about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm a workaholic, but I was still at like the ice arena at 7 a.m., on the Wi-Fi, doing work, getting you to practice and then to school, when she was younger. But, and I didn't miss any, events. And I mean, that's the blessing and the curse of real estate. When people say you have a flexible schedule, you end up working all the time, and then you feel grateful when you can throw a load of laundry in the middle of the day. But at the same time, you end up like working more, I think. And when it's your business, it's you, and there's no, every day you wake up at zero. Even if you sell a $3 million house the day before, well, okay, that was yesterday. So every day waking up at zero and starting over from scratch is, it's a sobering way to approach it, but it's the only way to approach it when you're an entrepreneur. It's like I said, I'm self-employed since I'm 26. People are like, shocked, like, you didn't have benefits, you didn't have vacation, you didn't have. I'm like, yeah, like I went out and bought health insurance because my husband worked has a career where there was also no benefits, but yeah, and and finally, for the first time in about almost 30 years, I'm going on vacation in July, and I'm going to Italy and the south of France and Saint-Tropez and Paris. It lowers my blood pressure every time I say Saint-Tropez. But and no one, I think, outside of me and my husband, I don't think anyone is more excited than Ben, because Ben has mastered the skiing in Vail, house in Maine. His wife is Japanese, going to Japan. So part of the fear, I think, was I'm going to end up working all the time. Ben's going to be skiing in Maine, skiing in Vail and vacationing in Maine. But like, how do we balance this to make sure that everybody is pulling their weight? And I was genuinely nervous. And, I spoke to my cousin, who's a very successful entrepreneur in Long Island. And he said to me, if he's the right person, and we talked for hours about this, and I said, I trust him with my life. He said, nothing is ever going to be 50-50, nothing. There's always going to be, just like a marriage, there's always going to be some days when someone's doing more and someone's doing less. And in the end, it should average and balance, but don't expect everything to ever be 50-50. And he was so right. So it does really, it does balance itself out. But I think getting over the fear and the control and the delegating, which, is a big thing. I mean, our transaction coordinator has been life-changing for us, being able to, delegate, because you always think, I can do it better, I can do it faster. Oh, it'll just take a second, I'll just do this, and then you get, you're like a squirrel running, and you get too sidetracked, and then before you know it, you've just like wasted an hour on bullshit stuff that was not your responsibility, and someone else can do it, and someone else can probably do it better and more efficiently.
So we're going to get to Ken in a couple minutes. I appreciate you bringing him in because he's definitely an important part of this conversation. I am curious, and you kind of alluded to it before, I think, when you talked about listing presentations, but somebody in here decides to partner with another agent. What do you feel like the learning curve was for you and working together?
I mean, never practice in front of your clients, actually. But, and sometimes, you have to just kind of wing it. And it's funny because we each, obviously, been going on listing presentations for years and years and have our own approach to doing it. And it's funny, like the little things that we say. And sometimes, like, Ben always says, people, shop with logic, but buy with emotion. And that's something he always says. And then I'm usually the one at the listing presentation that says, and Ben always says, people shop with logic and buy with emotion. And we start finishing each other's, and when we're talking about pricing strategy, I always say, when one person sees value in the house, more than one person will see value in the house, and that's how you drive the price up. And sometimes like Ben will say that line, so it's funny that we end up picking up on each other's each other's little idiosyncrasies when it comes to little sayings. But usually one person will take more of the lead depending on how the business came to us. And even if it's like sphere or past business, like I still want to go on the listing appointment, even though they'll say to me like, you have the listing, but like I still want to give people full court press. I still want them to feel, even if they're a friend or whatever, I still want to feel like everybody's getting the full good life group experience, and being able to like manage everybody's expectations.
So how do you guys feel like you handle disagreements? Because disagreements do come up. What does that look like?
Ben.
Honestly, we don't disagree that often. Usually, if we're working with a listing and a seller, usually one of us is more the point of contact for that transaction. And so if the person who has more of the relationship with the seller feels really strongly about something, or honestly, regardless, like there's been a few times when Amy's just like, I feel really strongly about this, and at that point, I respect it and let it go. And there've been times where I feel really strong about something, and I think Amy senses that.
Yeah, Ben rarely feels super strongly about something, so if he does, I take it like I'm the one that's usually more like, I want it to be like this. But I defer to Ben on
That's
a lot of. But I differ, on a lot of things. I mean, just not everything is important, and you don't need to go to the man on everything. So you kind of have to like pick the battles. But honestly, I really don't think there's been any battles, any major, disagreements on anything, thank God. But so far, so good.
Let's keep it that way. So next question is, and I think this is an important question actually, because you guys do this really intelligently, at least I believe this so, is talk to us about how you divide up roles and responsibilities.
Well, we have checklists. We started off, with Trello, but it's been transformed over to Google Sheets because it's interactive more and it's easier to use, and our transaction coordinator can tap into it too, so everybody can see where things are along the lines. But there's certain things that we just, like Ben is more detail oriented when it comes to like the photos, and even though we get luxury photos and luxury everything, he still will go in and like retouch it and Photoshop it and make sure that it presents. Ben is the one that makes sure that all the temperature, all the light bulbs are the same temperature and everything, presents way. I mean, so he's a little more, like even on staging, like he'll make sure that, everything is in such a way. But I don't know, we kind of just fell into like a pattern of like who takes care of what, and it's just really making sure that you check the checklist to make sure that it's been done. But
let me be more specific, because I'll lead you to water. My first question I should say is, all right, so I know you divide up roles and responsibilities, but are there certain things that you always do together? Are there certain things that you separate?
What do you think? I mean, we always try to go on listing appointments together, regardless of, how the client came to us. We always try to, both be after the stagers leave to make sure that the staging looks the way that we want.
I think that when we went through this, and I just know this about your business, you guys knew it doesn't matter where the source of business comes from, because the source of business matters. Like if it's a past client that's attached to Amy, or if it's a past client that's attached to Ben, like they might have a relationship that the other person just doesn't have, and that's normal. Like whether it's buyer, seller, it doesn't matter, it's just normal. I think the fact that regardless of where the relationship comes from, you guys both go on the listing presentation every single time, to me makes sense, because you're branding yourselves together. And when you think about it, like if you have a team model, like you're not branding yourself per se for a buyer. like you're definitely branding yourself for a listing. Every single listing that comes out has both of your names on it. Every single listing that comes out, you guys are both going on. Every single listing, you're dividing up the chores and responsibilities related to that listing. Buyers, a little bit different per se. Like, and what we spoke about the other day that I thought was insightful is that you guys both make money off of every transaction, but the amount of workload that you do on every transaction changes based on where the source is. And that's what I was really getting at with this question, because quite frankly, like, I think that everybody in here could benefit from thinking that through on that level, is like, all right, where's the branding and how does that lead back to why we should do this together versus maybe not?
So like after a listing agreement is signed, our transaction coordinator sends out a letter that says, congratulations, he introduces himself. He says, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Amy and Ben are still your main points of contact, or Sarah and Amy, or Sarah and Ben, or however, it worked out. Setting the expectations from the beginning that we are still the main points of contact, but he's there to make sure that the transaction runs smoothly. And we do make a concerted effort to present as a team. One of the hardest, well, not hardest, but just because it's, we're all creatures of habit, of saying I. We really make a concerted effort to say we, and it's harder than you think. And, we do split, all of our units, even though it kills us on Circle of Excellence and Que Sera, but, we share everything. And then also we made a concerted effort when we brought, Sarah into the team, that, she's working on a team, she's not really just a buyer's agent, she's an agent. I mean, she's a listing agent, she's a buyer's agent, she's a team member. She's not a partner because we're the partners, but she's a team member. But we wanted her to make sure, that she felt valued and that we give her credit. And I think that that's the biggest mistake of teams. And I know because I worked on a team for a hot minute in 2008 when the market crashed. And I thought like we were gonna sell our house and like move to like a van down by the river in Union or something. And all of a sudden I was, working for this big agent in Short Hills we were still Bergdorf actually at the time. And after, and it didn't matter what I did, all my business was booked under her name. And it's a little demoralizing, I think, when, you're working hard and you don't get the credit for it. And, I get it that that's some people's business model and, they want all the glory and the accolades, and that goes back to the I. And, we're the we. So we made a concerted effort, even though, and it's silly, the stupid Circle of Excellence, no one gives a shit about except other realtors. But, it was always just kind of like a benchmark. I got it for the first time in 2009. I literally had a rental agreement signed at 5 o'clock on December 31st to make that 15th unit. Because I was like, so, I have to make this. And, no one cares. It's all in our heads that it's like so important. No one gives a shit. No one's going to hire you because you were bronze or silver or platinum.
I'm going to remind you of this when we have our annual conversation.
I know. And believe me, I already spoke to the Circle of Excellence committee about this because it irked me, because I'm like, we're the only ones playing by the rules. All the other teams book all their business under one person, and then they advertise, which is breaking the rules as a team. But I'm not Circle of Excellence.
But hold on, I want to just point this out, because for anybody in the room who doesn't realize this, Amy was platinum every year. And to go from, and listen, I think that was a badge of honor of some sort, for you, because you work hard. Like, the fact that you have done that and then collectively splitting units haven't necessarily been platinum every year.
It makes us silver, but so freaking
But here's
hard.
the deal. And a lot of it is not even volume driven, it's unit driven. You guys are doing great GCI wise, but it's just, it's hard to get those units in today's world. The interesting thing for me though is that goes back to the I and we conversation, because it's not about being the glory by yourself. It's about, as a team, you guys really embrace that. And I gotta tell you, you get, sometimes it frustrates you, the rules and everything else. But I also, from my perspective, I'm proud of the fact that you guys do it that way. And I see your silver or whatever it is every year, and I think to myself, they're doing more production and they're making more money as silver agents than 90% of the platinum agents that are out there. And I think that that's a testament to that we conversation.
Yeah.
I would just add to, I think the we versus I is tremendous in terms of the culture that we're trying to build. The other thing I would just say is, when we first started, I think there were, we were trying to figure out, how do we delegate responsibilities, in terms of, and how do we delegate credit, in terms of, or share credit, whatever. But I don't even think about it anymore, and it's like, if I might work with a buyer, Amy might never even meet the buyer, and from contract to close, it's all done. But then, there might be, a period of time where Amy needs to, I need Amy or Sarah to cover for me, and so I have no problem. I love that we're sharing everything because at the end of the day, it's about the Good Life Group.
I think that the other thing that I'm going to interject on that particular point is both of you have come to me independently and have said this, in the past, where it's a good feeling to consistently get checks, always. Because, together you guys are doing business, all the time. And sometimes, everybody in here has experienced that. You could be the best agent in the world. You have, little periods of, ups and downs throughout your career. It's just normal. You might have, 14 closings in a 2-month period, and then you might have 2 months where you just don't have a closing. You guys, I don't think you've ever had that for as long as you've been together. And then the other thing that I would say is the thought process of it's really nice getting a check that you didn't necessarily do a whole lot of work on. And I think that it goes both ways. There's no question about it. Yeah. It goes both ways, but I think that it's just one of those things where it's all right, more money's in my bank account, and I didn't even really engage with this person as much as I would have had to if it was my client. So there's benefits and pluses and minuses to everything in life, but that's something that both of you have said to me at times, and I think that it speaks to that whole partnership mentality. I'm going to go to the lovely Sarah Brown. So Sarah's here with us, and thank you for being here, obviously. I got to tell you, there's very few people that come into an office and bring the energy that Sarah does. So I just love having her, in and building the culture with us. I mean, she's just such an incredible part of not only your team but our office. But I want to go back to the moment when you eventually brought her on, because the interesting thing is, I don't think, and this speaks to what you were saying before, that you both really joined forces out of trust. And you were very adamant about it. I was kind of pushing you for years, build a team, because I felt like it was, from a leverage perspective, it was necessary. But you were adamant about not wanting to bring people on because either you didn't trust them or they just didn't work as hard as you guys did.
Or we weren't ready.
We weren't ready as well when it came to the two of you together. So you guys joined forces, and then it felt like, 3 weeks later or whatever it was, Sarah joined you. So talk to us about why Sarah, and maybe big picture beyond even Sarah, although I love you, is the thought process of what do you look for when you're bringing somebody on the team?
I mean, it was opportunity and timing. We, like I said, we spent almost a year preparing to launch, and even there was another agent that ended up launching something that we almost did something with. It didn't work out, but he was launching something at the same time, and so we kind of felt like we have to launch or we're never going to launch. It's kind of like you're never ready to have a baby kind of thing. You're never going to be ready, so stop telling yourself when I'm ready. You never have enough money, you're never enough prepared. So that's kind of, I think we felt like we were not ready, but we did it anyway. And then there was, at the end, it was a month later, basically, an agent, so it's funny, I was the listing agent for the house that Sarah bought, but I didn't, she was somebody else's client, so we didn't really know each other, except that it was a super easy transaction. And the agent said to me, well, she's a realtor in New York, so it's gonna be really easy. I'm like, great, and it was. So she was recommended to us, and when I was out of town, I think, and Ben met with her first, and then I met with her, and I was like, oh my God, we are so not ready, but she is so amazing, and this is such an incredible opportunity that if we don't grab her, someone else will, for sure. And I just kind of had an instinct. I mean, she also has a musical theater background. She's a lot younger than us. Her kids are little. She's in that new mommy crowd. she brings that energy. She's still like excited about shit and it's just, like she's like, yeah, we're gonna go to open houses today and I'm gonna take some videos and like, I'm like, great, let's go. But she definitely, she's not quite young enough to be our child, but she's definitely in that, she's definitely in that younger, like vibrant, excited, energetic category. She listens to us. She like absorbs everything, we say. She calls me, bounces shit off me all the time and says like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And she's like, okay, I'm gonna try this, I'll try that. So the fact that, again, I'm not responsible for her livelihood because she is busting her ass like every day to make it happen. And she's just looking to me and Ben for like fine tuning it is amazing, and not something that I experienced with other team members that I had on my team who were literally dragging me down and not bringing me up. And and that's why, again, it's so important to to give credit. We want Sarah Brown's name to be known as part of the Good Life group. I mean, we have pictures we have a lot of pictures of the two of us because we're the partners, but we have a lot of pictures with the three of us too.
Look no further than behind you.
Right. So it was important to do, to do team pictures, and get it out. But I think it was just, we weren't ready. It was an opportunity, and it was like the best decision ever.
Yeah, Amy basically called me and said, there's an agent that is interested in joining a team. She's out of town. She's like, can you meet her and talk to her? So I spoke to Sarah. We met at a coffee shop in South Orange, and like honestly, in the first 30 seconds, I was like, oh my God. This person is incredible. Sarah, you have this energy that is, when somebody comes in and takes over a room, but also does it with like joy and then
right, in a good way,
and then creativity. So honestly, from the beginning, I felt like, oh my God, like we have to, bring Sarah on because she also came from a team in the city. She wanted to join a team. So I knew she was going to be motivated, and also she wanted to learn, she wanted to be guided, but also you could just tell that she had the capacity to be a superstar, and honestly, she already is. And at the end of the day, what we're doing with the Good Life group, at some point down the line, we're going to want to pass this on, and honestly, I can't think of anybody better than Sarah to fill that role.
And she did share that. She met with some other, teams because at the time she was with another brokerage, and that brokerage was recommending people from that brokerage to speak with. And then her agent, who I'm like friends with, said, I know she's not part of our brokerage, but she's a great agent in Maplewood, and maybe you should just speak to her. So or speak with her. So that's kind of how it worked out. And Sarah did share that like the other teams that she met with, she didn't feel that they had like, they didn't have like systems in place, and they were kind of like all over the place, and she didn't feel like it was going to be, it was too unorganized, maybe is the right word.
I think that what my takeaway from all this conversation we've had so far, and I'll kind of highlight 2 points, is one, the relationship between the two of you, and then the relationship between the two of you and bringing Sarah on. In both of those instances, and I don't want to I'm not trying to diminish what you guys have done by any means, but it was like the easy button. It wasn't banging your head against the wall, trying to fit something that didn't fit. And I think that I'm bringing this up intentionally because too often people try to force things in real estate. You really want, a partner, and you're like, I just got to fill this void. And that's not what happened here. I think that it was very intentional, but I also think that it was, hey, this just makes sense. And the same things, is in regard to Sarah, is like, it made sense regardless of what the timing is. You guys have done a really nice job of taking advantage of opportunities that came before you at maybe not even the right time, but you realize that it's not always about timing. It's sometimes about you got to take advantage of the opportunity when it's in front of you. And so, I think that everybody in here should, take a page from that and say, don't force the issue on things. If you have somebody who's a team member who just is not working, it's not fit, it should be easy. It should feel good. That's what it's all about. And that's what you guys have done a really nice job with. So what is one non-negotiable standard that you guys have for your team? We're open to anything. I think that, speak to me about marketing, because I think that that's a non-negotiable for you.
Yeah, I mean, everything, I would say we really try to go above and beyond. I think our marketing is really second to none. The amount of, and it costs money, I'm not gonna lie, it costs money. But, we do 3 kinds of videos at least for every listing, if not more. We have like a YouTube long form, we have like an Instagram one, short one. We have ads that we run. Because you never know, you have to hit people, you never know how people are gonna find you, so you wanna kind of be everywhere. We do luxury photos for everything. Like I said, Ben retouches everything. Ben puts together our brochures. Yes, probably we could find somebody to do it, but we write all our copy. We may put it into ChatGPT to tighten it up or anything, but we don't say write a description for a 1927 Center Hall Colonial in Maplewood, New Jersey. Because if you do that, you'll see you're gonna look like everybody else's brochure. So, we do spend a lot of time just kind of curating the marketing, and also just, helping our clients prepare their homes for the market. So I'm sure we've all walked into those houses and you wanna be like, do these people know their house is on the market? It's just, how did the agent, we're vacuuming, we're weeding. I was painting trim on a house once. Because it was.
You guys literally move in. You just do everything.
I was at a listing this morning prior to coming here.
Oh my God, yeah.
Meeting an electrician and a contractor after getting text from their OCD seller at 5 texts at 6 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God. But, but I think in terms of non-negotiable, for me, as I mentioned, I think, as realtors, I think probably the most important thing we have is our reputation. And so for me, it's always been non-negotiable that if we're putting something on the market, we want it to look its absolute best, because that's a reflection of us and the quality of work that we bring to the table. So even if it's a low-priced house or a $2 million house, we want to have the same level of quality regardless. And then also, I think we have also taken great care to try to cultivate an exceptional client experience. So with buyers, that's guiding them on, how to strategically make the best offer. When is the right house the right house? For me, I always like to focus on lifestyle. And if this home is going to give you a lifestyle that's going to change your life for the better, and you can afford it, then it absolutely makes sense. And so we've collectively, I think, tried to make sure that every step of the way we're providing quality for our buyers and our sellers. And in terms of the listing side, even though one of us might be more the point of contact for a particular transaction, I think that we always, oh God, I just had lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me.
I was just, when working with buyers, I always tell them, make a list of the top 10 things that are most important to you. And when you find 7 of them, that's your house. Because you will never, ever get all 10. I once got a 9. The 9 was Jen McManus's listing on South Crescent. That was an exclusive listing a few years ago. So I once got a 9. I told the people, get in their car, come out, and they bought it. So once I had a 9.
My clients for that.
This is before, I think, or maybe just the beginning.
I'm going to pivot away from partnership for a second. And just for a lack of time, we're going to jump around a little bit, because I think that you guys do a really nice job with other things in your business that are really worth highlighting while we have you up here. So I appreciate you talking and doing a deep dive in partnership, because that was at the heart of what we were trying to accomplish here. But let's talk about branding. We'll jump into branding. We'll do a little bit about systems, and we'll just skip around here a little bit, okay? So my first question in terms of branding, you spoke about the name The Good Life before, so we don't necessarily have to go into the background on that. But what I would love for you to talk about is, your brand does have a very boutique-y feel. It's very lifestyle driven. How intentional was that? What did that process look like?
So it was very intentional. We actually worked with a very talented Coldwell Banker person, Michael Goudreau, in Chicago at Design Concierge. and helped us, put it together. And, we were trying to think of what we could, two people coming together. We had this idea like two tree trunks like intertwined. It was like Maplewood, South Orange.
I could show this.
Oh, there you go. That's our logo. So, Maplewood, South Orange, we have the orange, we have the green, planting roots. We had all these, tree sort of, evoking kind of, nature and rooting. And also, it also is a little reminiscent of the Tree of Life. And I have, a lot of my clientele is Jewish. So people who know will know. People who won't know think it's a nice tree. So I kind of felt like there was a little double entendre there. So I really, liked being able to evoke that feeling. And we worked really hard and spent many hours. I learned about, fonts and what serif and sans serif and, the whole design concierge team, led by Michael Gaudreau was really, integral in getting this out there. And we get a lot of compliments. I mean, I'm just looking at like my bag. We have a lot of swag. We have mugs. We need to actually get more swag. We need like t-shirts and sweatshirts.
I'm going to give a quick plug here. For those of you who have never used it, Design Concierge, they use the Disruptor package, which is like all-encompassing for everything you do with your business. Strongly recommended if you never looked into it, especially if you want to just do a complete rebrand of everything that you touch.
Yeah, so we have, beautiful business cards and, just really nice, collateral. So,
yeah, that's perfect. Did you want to add anything or?
No, I mean, I think what I loved about the logo was it just took me by surprise because previously both of us had logos that were more streamlined, more kind of like Apple, clean, modern, and I kind of thought that's kind of what we were going to build together for the Good Life Group. But as soon as the tree became part of the logo, it just related to so many aspects of the culture that we were trying to create, and then it was just a matter of fine tuning it. But once we settled on the tree as this sort of grounding image, then everything kind of just came together.
And it looks great on sign panels. People like recognize us. Because everybody else has like sort of these like black signs with everybody like switched over to black recently, and we have like really dark blue Coldwell Banker colors, and then we have like a white reverse logo on the on our sign panels. So our sign panels are really distinctive. So when people are driving around town and they see that, I think it's just another way to stand out.
So I don't know if there's anybody that I could think of in real estate that does a better job on systems. You guys are right there. You do an awesome job with systems. And I think in the way you scale, that's a big part of it. So my question to you is, and it's really kind of a few questions in a row here on this, but how do you maintain like such a high touch concierge level experience as you build?
So you've got to have a CRM, and everyone says, what's the best CRM? And the answer is the one you use. The one we use is Follow Up Boss. We pay for it, and it's worth every penny and then some. It integrates with everything else we do, so you don't have to create zaps or anything. It integrates nicely with everything, all of our other tech stack. But Follow Up Boss, and we still don't even probably use it to its full capacity. Because they're always changing it's a learning curve. It's, sometimes people say, oh, it's too hard. Well, yeah, this shit's hard, but you have to spend time learning it and doing the webinars. And sometimes I rewatch them, you got to take the live training a lot of times. There's a big learning curve to the systems that we use, but once you get it down, you realize, that that's the only way to be able to move your business forward. So you have to have a CRM. You could start with Constant Contact if you're like a newer agent and you don't, but Constant Contact is not going to give you the reminders and things like that. But just at least have all your stuff somewhere. You need to have a sphere list, and you need to just keep hitting those people consistently. That's from what I hear from, I follow a lot of different coaches and business people and agents and things in life. And if there's one word that I've heard this year about every single thing, when people say what's the game changer, how are you adapting, whatever, it's just boring consistency. And it sounds so unsexy and, so no-brainer. Like, of course, consistency, but it's the same consistency of going to the gym every day and the same consistency of just everything that you do in life to create good habits.
So do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, systems, that's Amy's A game. She's amazing at it, and it's a huge part of, I think, our success. But I think the core thing behind the systems is really just staying in touch with your sphere. I mean, honestly, we've been doing this a long time, so the majority of our business is referral based. If you go on a listing appointment with somebody that you already have an incredible relationship with, the hard part's over. But so many agents have great relationships with their clients, and then after the closing, they kind of disappear and they don't stay in touch. So our systems, I think that the primary benefit of our systems is to be able to nurture our sphere, nurture new leads, because that's what creates opportunities for us.
Right, like the lifetime effect of a client. I mean, they always say the real relationship starts at the closing. And there's times throughout the closing or throughout the transaction where something great will happen, and I'll be like, save that for the 5-star Google review, or remember that when it's time to do that review. And then at closing, I tell them, I'm like, and we do like gifts and everything. I'm really into the gifting. I'll say you're going to get an email that says thank you and congratulations, and would you please, give me a review? It's so important. Give us a review. It's so important to our business because that's how people find everybody. A lot of business, this new listing that we have right now not in our main market. And she found me online and she said, yeah, I've read your reviews and you just sounded like somebody that we'd like to work with. And that's Tom Ferry always says, we're living in the review age. We're living in the digital review age. It's so important. I started getting reviews on LinkedIn, and like Zillow, but I'm trying to move off of things of Zillow, but and really just go to Google. But I started doing LinkedIn and just building reviews because you want, like Ben said, people who already know, like, and trust you, they're going to be the ones to refer you. So people spend so much money on lead gen and all these new things. Stop chasing after the new things and just concentrate on the things that you already know. Instead of going far and wide, it's go narrow and deep.
So I want you to rattle this off quick, but just talk to us about your tech stack. You brought that up.
Okay, so Follow Up Boss, BombBomb, High Note. High Note is a game changer for us. It's not expensive.
What does High Note do? Because most of the crowd has no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so High Note is basically a presentation software. And what we do is we drop in, they call them assets, 8 or 9 assets about, the first one is our video that you guys, saw, our intro video. Then it's about our marketing and our, what to expect when you list your house with us. The goal of it is to send it to people in advance, get them to watch it in advance. So when you go in and meet them, they feel like they already know you. The great part when I had a big graduation party for my kids this weekend, and Sarah walked in, and I introduced her to my sister, and my sister was who lives in Connecticut, and my sister was like, oh my God, it's Sarah Brown. She's like, I want to hire you for my digital marketing. She already, and even a few people said to Beth, oh yeah, we know you from your videos. So my friends and family who follow me on on social media already knew Sarah and Ben from from our marketing. So so YLopo is our website platform. I've been on it for probably 7. I was an early adopter of it.
YLOPO.
Yeah, it's not cheap. I won't lie, it's not cheap, but I love our website. And again, we spent thousands of hours on getting it, on fine tuning it, so people can really get a feel for us. Because that's the whole thing. You want people to already feel like they know you before they meet you. So when you get to the listing appointment, you can really just spend time on the house and stuff and not selling you, because that's always a bit awkward. So Follow Up Boss, YLopo, BombBomb. Every week I send, BombBomb is an email program with video. And every Friday I send a BombBomb video to my clients, sphere, and people in different stages. It depends where you are in the hot, warm, cold stage of getting this video. If I've if we've spoken before, there's criteria that I have to send it out, but it's literally a 20-second video every week that says, hey, this week in Maplewood, we have 30 single-family homes on the market with 10 new listings, and in South Orange, we have 18 single-family homes on the market with 6 new listings. Stay tuned, next week we have 3 great listings coming out, a multifamily in Maplewood, a single-family, and a great house in New Providence, all under $1 million. If you'd like more info, ping me back and have a great weekend.
You know what I love about that?
And it took me
That's actually what you're bringing on, so you just did it off the cuff.
And that's literally this week. That's literally
today.
this week. But it probably took me 2 years working with a coach that I started in 2018 to be able to do that video. My first video probably took me like 150 takes to do. I mean, it was, my husband's like, could you be any more unnatural? I mean, it was like it was so hard. But it came to the point where now when people say, oh my God, that video, like you look great, how long did it take you? I'm like, literally, unless I like trip over my words and I'll do a retake, I generally do them in 1 take, sometimes 2. And it's a 20-second video. And then I have market stats and KCM, Keeping Current Matters. Whatever their stat of the week is in my email. So, and then I have like the Altos research. You can look on Altos. They have really cool graphics if like you're on a buyer's market, seller's market. If you look on our website, you could see the Altos research if you click on communities in different cities.
So I say rattle off real quick.
Shit, I know,
It takes
I'm
20
terrible.
minutes on our tech stack, but that just speaks to the systems you have, is why I let you run with it.
And Google Sheets is our, we used to have Trello, but Google Sheets, which everybody should have because it's easy to use and you literally check a box.
And also Google Drive, like this way, we have a Good Life Group, folder with all of our, marketing stuff. So, if I'm working on a description for a property, Amy can jump in and just edit it, and it's always there, shared.
Yeah, doing things in live time.
We are, for a lack of time, we're going to do a speed round, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of random questions because I want to get some of these things out there that I think are important. But keep them short and sweet and just get to the heart of it. First question is, what is something manual that you still do to keep it personal? Because we talked about all this tech, but you guys do a lot, with your clients. So what does that look like?
Well, some of this is stuff that we both did independently, but Amy also had in place. But we're big on sort of client events. So every Thanksgiving we do pie giveaways for our clients. Amy has a circular driveway, which is great because then they can pull up and then continue on. And just a great opportunity to reconnect with people, to give back. Valentine's Day we do personal gifts as well. We sponsor some other events like the Newstead 5K. So I think
We did an ice cream truck,
which
which we're going to probably do again.
Back to school, we're probably due for a bigger,
We had a
party.
huge bash when we announced the Good Life Group at the South Orange
Orange Lawn.
Tennis Club. We had like a great party. We had a live band because we used to work in the music industry. My husband runs a jazz club in Manhattan, so he was able to get some good musicians for us. So and it was catered so everything we do, we probably spend too much money on it, but we're trying to create a feeling. So we never want to do anything kind of a lot of people do Costco pies and stuff around the country, which I'm not knocking it. I mean, they're good, but we do either an apple pie from Whiteman's Farms in Morristown, which I taste tested and is amazing, or a gluten-free banana bread from Able Baker, which is a beloved bakery in our town. And I mean, yeah, it's way more expensive, but I mean, I still have clients that I sold houses to 15 years ago that send me notes saying it's so nice that you still do this every year.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, when I had the brain freeze before, it was basically just, I was going to talk about how when we meet with sellers, we always emphasize that, yeah, you're hiring us as a team, but both of us are going to be hands-on throughout the process. We're not going to just pass.
Right, we're not an assembly line.
Exactly.
Like some other local agents in our market who you meet with them once and then you never see them again, and they pass it along to their minions.
And so in terms of the events and the gifting, again, I think it's really about trying to maintain, a personal bond with our clients. that's just above and beyond the sort of the commercial relationship.
All right, so this is a Ken question really, but my question to you is, what have you stopped doing that you feel like has been really important to stop doing for your business?
So you've got to learn to delegate. It's the hardest thing ever. And I honestly think it was like Jill Biggs that told me probably like a decade ago. She was speaking at an event in the city when Coldwell Banker used to do these events for agents who did a certain level of business at the time. Before we were making the cool fun trips, they did this other event in the city that was nice. And Jill Biggs was talking about how people like want her, and and I said, like, how do you overcome when people like want you to like do everything? And she's just like, well, one thing she said was like, you have to like train people to do things the way that you want them to do it. So like I work with like my transaction coordinator to like set the standard of how things work. And then she said when it comes to buyers sometimes and meeting them, and if you really need to like put them off on someone else, she would come up with like some like cockamamie story about how she'd call them at the last minute. And if you know Jill, she's like kind of funny like that, where she'd be like, yeah, like I twisted my ankle on the way to my car and like I can't meet you, but like, Sarah will come and meet you and she's great and don't worry about it. And like she would come up with like some story, because she's like, they don't really like want you per se. They just like want like your experience and what you're about. So, it's hard to give up control, but like, you don't need to be there to like meet the township inspector in order for the house to sell. Like that's not the highest and best use of your time. And I think people have to like get over the fact, showing time was a huge thing that people like, had to get over, where agents would get like really territorial, like, well, you have to go through me and my client wants, I'm like, God, you're an idiot. You're like wasting so much time when you can just have them approve it or not approve it. So it's like giving up control.
Tell us how you really feel, Amy.
Giving up control of certain things. And I did. I used to do everything. I was like chief cook and bottle washer. When I was, had my own PR business, I would get the client, publicize them, write the press release, put it in, fold it, print it, put it in the envelope, stamp it, bring it to the post office.
So hold on, I'm going to be very specific here. What does Ken do for you guys in your business today?
So Ken is our transaction coordinator, who we hire independently, but I know Coldwell Banker has a product where you don't have to pay, so whatever that is, you should use it.
Yes.
Thank you. But we have somebody that we pay, and it's worth every penny. And he just manages the transaction from contract to close. We have, whether you're a buyer or you're a seller, from just he interacts with all the other agents. Like, Jen knows him. He's best friends with Lynn, our admin, our chief admin.
Assistant manager.
Thank you. Assistant manager. I know, I was going to screw it up. She's really the chief cook and bottle washer. But Ken's like on first name basis with like a lot of the agents in our market, because like we do a lot of business with the same group of agents, and it's just great. He just keeps the transaction moving. He coordinates appointments at the end when you're doing like that stupid, like, do you want the furniture and this and that? Like, you don't have to be involved in that. Like, he makes sure like, that the paint is gone and not in the basement or something. Just coordinating all the little stuff that is super time consuming as an agent. But the important thing is you need to train other agents to like, a lot of times they want to talk to you because they're used to talking with you. And you need to tell them like, hey, I'm really sorry, but like Ken handles this. And sometimes people get like a little miffed, but you know what? A lot of agents have transaction coordinators, and the great thing is that Ken knows a lot of the other transaction coordinators, so he'll even be like, hey, great to see you again, or great to be in a deal with you again. And he knows all the attorneys by now, so he's really become an integral part of the business of keeping everything like running on time, although we are still the main points of contact for our clients.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think for me, he's been a game changer too, because he basically manages all of the things that you would normally do, like, do you have the mortgage commitment letter? And then, like, it's such a simple thing, but, if we were handling that, it would involve, checking with the attorney, checking with the lender.
Right, it's the deposit end.
But, he handles all that. So, of course, we have a timeline for each transaction with, dates and things that need to be checked off. But honestly, he manages all of that for us. So it just frees up so much time that we would otherwise.
Ordering the
spend
signpost. Did you get apply for the C of O when the clients have a lot of problems? I can't fill out, Authentisign is not working. Like I can't. Sorry, keeping positive. Even
little things like somebody didn't initial the page 9 of the contract.
Right. We're missing the lead paint.
So it's just so much.
Getting the commission statement in on time.
So I'm gonna
little things that are vital to the transaction, but they're not like the sexy part. And
we're gonna have 5 more minutes. I'm gonna rattle through some questions here, but I just want to ask one follow-up to that one, and it's short and sweet. Do your clients have a problem or feel that Ken is doing your job for you, or is there any awkwardness that's created about handing those things over?
I'll take this one. Ken has made it into my Google reviews. People will literally give Ken a compliment in my Google reviews, and I've sent it to him before. So people appreciate it. I mean, it's kind of like, look, we're not doctors, we're not curing cancer here, but it's the same thing where you meet the receptionist and they take all your information, and then you meet the nurse and maybe she draws your blood and whatever, and then you kind of meet the doctor. So it's just kind of like that concept of, they don't expect you to necessarily be the people doing that. So as long as you set the expectation up front, I mean, as we know, our job is managing expectations. No such thing as good surprises in real estate. So it's as long as you're managing the expectations and people know to expect that, I think that they really appreciate it.
Also, I quickly add, every correspondence that Ken has with our clients,
we're on them.
We're CC'd on everything.
Yeah.
So, we're able to, affirm that he's managing the process. But if there ever is a question that requires one of us to step in, we can easily jump in and make sure that the client's
I think that why I asked that question is agents that are not as productive as you are or haven't figured out a way to provide the quality of service that you have. In many instances, it's because they're control freaks that are unwilling to delegate because they feel like if they're not touching it, it's either not getting done right or not getting done, or it's something that their clients are gonna have hesitancy towards. And that is so far from the truth.
You can't let perfection become the enemy of done.
All right, so like that, look at that, dropping dimes here. All right, so I have to ask you this question because I cracked up when we were prepping. How do you handle clients who aren't a good fit? Amy, Paternite.
Ben Garrison. I mean, we've turned down business before. I mean, we once met with a seller who was just thought his house was worth $1 million, and honestly, it was $550. I mean, it was just not even. And I basically said, we'd be doing a disservice to you. And I said, and honestly, you'll ruin our stats. But I mean.
So in prepping for this, I go, how do you handle difficult clients? And she goes, that's Ben's job. So.
Basically, I mean, Ben is, he's more calm and even keeled and has just a more genteel way. And sometimes I get a little more short, maybe a little about. I don't have a lot of patience sometimes when it comes to some of the clients. The client that we have now is very. I mean, she admitted herself. She's she's OCD. Meanwhile, we have pictures at 2:30, and she's changing the linens on the bedding today after our stagers staged everything, and so. I would say Ben.
I want to get personal for a second. We're just going to keep it moving because honestly, we just don't have a lot of time here left. I think you guys do an amazing job with community service and giving back. And I think that what I would like to highlight, and even if you could just touch upon some of the things you're involved in, but you don't do it for the reason of getting business. And I think that a lot of people in here just automatically assume that if you're involved in something that it has to be an ulterior motive. And not everybody, but I think a lot of people in business think that way. I mean, what do you do at the food pantry?
I mean, so I volunteer at the Interfaith Food Pantry of the Oranges for about a decade. I don't put it on the Good Life group page. I never, it was actually my way of, when people said, you have to be on social media, this was, 2014, 2015, you have to be on social media. And I hated being on social media, but every week when, vegetables was like, my station, and I take great pride in staging all the vegetables to make them look like really pretty. So I would take these pictures, and like, if you look at my Instagram or my Facebook from like years, even probably up until a few weeks ago, but I mean, every Wednesday is just like vegetables and vegetables and vegetables and staged vegetables. And yeah, I don't tag it to the Good Life group. It's just something that I do. I mean, food insecurity obviously is a huge issue in this country. And honestly, just a few miles from where we live, I mean, where we are in Maplewood, South Orange, geographically, a few miles one way is Short Hills with $1 million homes. A few way the other way is inner city. So it's just something that I've always, just been involved with. And same thing with, with Jewish Federation, very involved in our local Jewish community. Does it bring me business? Sometimes people say like, yeah, I'd like to work with, somebody who's, involved in the Jewish community. I mean, is it challenging in these times right now? Absolutely. But I don't do it with the expectation of like, I'm doing this. I mean, there's like this one real estate team that comes once a year to a food pantry and they pose for a picture. I'm like, that's not me and that will never be me. But yeah, I mean, I just, we just like to do, I think we just like to do things that keep our name in the community, like, the Achieve Foundation for our local school district and the Newstead 5K, because I live in the Newstead neighborhood of South Orange, and just trying to, be supportive of the community, especially now that our kids are out of the schools and Sarah's are just about to enter, so it's a very good, very good time.
Ben, you've done an amazing job with Project Purple, among other things. I don't know if you want to touch upon.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think, kind of like in real estate, you try to be authentic. So, if you have a passion, for me, running has been a big part of my life, and I'm fortunate to live near the South Mountain Reservation, so I love the trail running. I've done a bunch of New York City marathons, and yes, raising money for Project Purple, which supports pancreatic cancer research. That's something kind of near and dear to me, especially since Michael has a really close friend that passed from pancreatic cancer, so that made it personal for me too. As Amy mentioned, the Newstead 5K, the Achieve Foundation. I mean, basically, I think part of the Good Life group was, our way of celebrating the communities that we live in, that we love, and that we serve. And so I think anytime you can be involved in your local community, it's just really gratifying because that's where you live and that's what's important to you.
Awesome, thank you for that. All right, we're gonna just talk about like maybe 2-3 more questions, and just to really kind of like bring it all back together. And we'll keep them short and sweet if you wouldn't mind. What advice would you give a solo agent who's considering building a team or a partnership?
Just to really just try to find someone who you really trust. I mean, I think that's probably, the reason why, why certain teams just don't make it. Trust and a good fit, and just to try and get some sort of organizational, systems in place, at the very least, a CRM, so all your, contacts are in one place.
Yeah, I think, again, I didn't get into real estate with an entrepreneurial mindset, but I think if I could do it again, that's probably the first thing that I would put more attention on, is having a system in place to keep in touch with my clients and new leads. And obviously, if you're looking to partner with somebody, I think trust is going to be the biggest factor.
And I would also start out with a coach. I waited like way too long. I didn't think I needed one because when I started in 2018, I was like, well, I'm successful. I don't, but I mean, even like the biggest sports stars, like everybody has coaches. And I think, like I was always kind of like thought it was like a sign of weakness to like ask for help, which, is probably like a generational thing and some sort of Jewish guilt in some way. But, it's like, it's okay to like ask for help, and like, doing it alone, there's no special prize for, like suffering alone. So if you don't have to, why would you? So I would definitely say, like, look into a coach. and getting a transaction coordinator just to like streamline your life and just to like free up your time, because even if it frees up another hour of your day, that's one more hour of prospecting. And if you're not prospecting and talking to people every day, like, you don't have a business.
Yeah, I also think just, be authentic to who you are. I think a lot of us can suffer from analysis paralysis because, there's like, oh my God, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, listening, buyer, there's just so many balls in the air that we're all trying to maintain. So I think if there's something that you feel like you're really good at, lean into that and really master that, because I think it's sometimes it's overwhelming. And also, you gotta have fun too. I mean, and one of the things that I love about working with Amy and working with Sarah, like when we get together, like they crack me up, and it's just
So we were gonna do this
Sarah
video.
Has us, like dancing, like I look like an idiot.
It was so funny. We wanted to do like, sometimes I'll look on Instagram and find these cool videos, and I'm like, Sarah, you should like dub these over, because she's really good at musical theater. And so she did a really funny, like this, I'm a realtor, baby. It's such a funny video. And then I saw this other one that was like that dance chant, like but that. I'm like, you should do that. And she's like, no, we should all do that. And I'm like, we're gonna look like idiots. And for some reason, she talked us into it. We did it. It was rushed. She had to go pick up her son. He was like waiting at the bus stop. She's like, I gotta leave. We have to hurry up and do this. And it was like this rush thing. We did it. And P.S., it's like the Instagram video that got more views than any other real estate video of ours in the history of time.
I love that video. I agree. Last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. But what does success look like 5 years from now? Like, what is the good life going to be for you 5 years removed from today?
Ask me when I'm on a beach in Tel Aviv. I mean, honestly, it's it's building us. I mean, I'm doing this for 20. I mean, I'm tired. I mean, we know like people are. It's really hard to work with people. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know here, but like after a while, I mean, the fact that like we love Sarah because like like she's 39, she's enthusiastic, she's like she's like she doesn't know yet that what's coming, but we don't want to scare her, but I mean like our kids are well, Ben still has one in college, but like our kids are like grown and flown, like we're kind of at least for me, I mean it's very emotionally draining. I mean, Michael knows I was on the verge of quitting like 100 times probably.
Never.
I mean, it's been much better since the partnership. I mean, and that's one of the things, when you're on your own and like the shit hits the fan and Hurricane Ida comes and your client gets 7 feet of water in their basement and the people cancel the deal and you have 3 deals riding on that one deal.
Don't even tell me about this deal anymore.
And I mean, it haunts me, I mean, it's hard when you're going through it, alone. And when, I mean, even when shit hits the fan together, it's just like, it just brings another level of, when keeping things in perspective. Like, again, like we're not curing cancer, but it's still, it hurts when you have, so much riding on something, and we know how much like we give our all, and like, and the real estate industry is like constantly being like shit upon, like that we're some like, greedy, thieves that are, trying to milk the public, and, especially since in this, post-lawsuit world, it's hard, we still have like this used car salesman kind of shadow hanging
So
over
what
us.
does it look
Sorry,
like 5 years from now?
5 years from now, go ahead. You're going to be in Maine at your house, so tell me in 5 years.
I think we're still excited to grow, and I think with the Good Life Group, honestly, we're trying to create a systematized business that whenever the time is that we decide we want to step back,
We can hand that
that
playbook.
we can hand that over to Sarah or whoever else is involved at the time with the Good Life Group, because I think we have worked really hard to build a culture and build a business that we really feel adds value, not only for ourselves but for our clients, and ideally we would like to have that live on, when we do step back. So that's the goal.
Right. In 5 years, I'm going to be on that screen from Tel Aviv, maybe Austin, Texas, or somewhere, and we'll be beaming in, and Sarah will be sitting here saying how how amazing business is and how much she still loves it.
All right. I do want to turn it over to the crowd. Before I do that, I just want to thank you guys, first of all. I mean, thank you for a million different things beyond this conversation, but just proud to work with you. Have loved our relationship through the years, and I just think that where you've come from the day we met to where you are right now is really an impressive run. So shout out to both of you, and I do want to turn it over to you guys for the last word.
Well, I would also like to thank you, Michael. I mean, honestly, I feel like you're a family, and one of the things that I love about being a part of the Coldwell Banker family is just the relationship that we've had, and everybody from Al and just everybody at Coldwell Banker. I feel like we get constant support, great training. I mean, last August when all the new real estate rules took effect, all of us I think were had some anxiety about what was going to happen. I feel like Coldwell Banker, Colleen, was instrumental in really making sure that we had answers to all the questions. So thank you to you and to Coldwell Banker, because we're really happy to make our home here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that obviously we have a long relationship, and it's important. It's a people it's a people business. I mean, we've had opportunities. Other companies have courted us. And especially when Compass came into the market, there was this big push of them really like buying up agents, and I mean throwing crazy money and stuff. And we had long conversations about it, and it's like, it's not I mean, money is important, yeah, but it can't just be about the money. It's about it's about the relationships. And Coldwell Banker, for me personally, has always been like really supportive over the years. I mean, I always, when people call me and ask me like about what a meeting with them, apparently everybody wants to take me for coffee. Like I need more coffee. Like I'm good. But and I say, like, basically, like, I feel like my manager would take a bullet for me, and and he would be like devastated. I was like, if I ever considered leaving. But there's no, if you're leaving, it's like you're not getting something. If you're missing something, like that's really the reason why I think like some of our friends have like gone to different brokerages, is because they weren't getting like really what they needed. And I think that we're really supportive. I mean, early on, or even a couple of years ago, when I was like reworking my some stuff about like my personal like resume and trying to like change my branding, Sue Yannicon like helped me do that. And I saw there was like I read this thing on LinkedIn where she's like really about like empowering women, and someone said how like Sue was so helpful, and I sent her a note. This was before she was big president, but I sent her a note and I said, I didn't realize that like a single agent could reach out to the like vice president or president, what she was at the time, to get like personalized help. I don't know.
Executive vice president.
Yeah, she was executive vice president. I said, I didn't realize like we were allowed to like reach out to like top management for, and she literally emailed me back like an hour later, gave me her cell phone number, said, call me. And then we worked through on a Google Doc. I mean, this is several years ago, but we worked on a Google Doc, like revising like what, like my bio. That's what it was. It was my bio, and kept on like revising it. And even like, like Ryan Gorman was like so supportive and like helping when we were like starting, the team. And, and Al and Tracy and Rob. I mean, Tracy's from Bergdorf. I mean, these are people that, before we were Coldwell Banker, that were still like always, very supportive. And of course, Michael, just, it's really about people. And, I just feel like it's really important who you surround yourself with, and like the money will come.
Yeah, and I think just to go back to the your beginnings as a manager, I think, particularly after that top producer left our office, and it was kind of like, starting from the ground up, I think you were very intentional about building a culture that was supportive and inclusive and collaborative. And then, people like Lynn and Jamie, who just, make everything work for everybody, and go above and beyond. Over the years, whenever people would, recruit us. Again, I kind of always felt like, you know what, like, you can't duplicate an environment, a work environment that's really positive, and it's super important to me. So
I appreciate you both, as you're aware. Thank you, first of all. I do want to turn it over to the crowd. What questions do we have, if any? I know we covered a lot of ground here. Please. Thank you for breaking the ice.
Hi, I'm fairly new to the business. I just wanted to ask, you did say like for people that are looking for a team, I remember you saying something about finding a coach. So do you think, as far as like direction-wise or growth, should I be looking for a coach or should I be looking to join a team?
I mean, I would maybe suggest both, but I mean, I guess it depends, like.
Just looking at me.
I don't know, I mean, it depends like what, what your market is, where you are. I mean, even, my first coach in 2018 was from the Jared James organization, and she, and I coached with her for maybe 2 years or so, a little more than that, and she's become like a dear friend of mine. Actually, I just even like spoke to her before I walked in the room, and she's in Destin, Florida, and she was amazing. She changed my business. She helped me go from 18 million to 25 million. So she was like a game changer for my business. She got me doing videos. I was like, if you would see my first video, you would laugh your ass off. It is so pathetic. But, getting a coach is, it changed my business. And even now, just recently, even after being, an experienced agent, we just started working with the Tom Ferry organization. And I think, finding the right coach is really important. It's just like finding the right transaction coordinator. Like everyone's like, oh, like I want Ken. I'm like, well, Ken's too busy for everybody else right now. But it's really, you have to train somebody. You have to spend the time to train them the way that you want to do it. But I would, depending on what market you're in, maybe look into a team. But for your own benefit, I wish I started with a coach earlier. I'm
going to throw one other thing out, is because obviously we've been working together, and as a manager, like, I know what my skill set is. I know what my strengths and my weaknesses are. Like, I'm great with business planning. I'm great with like deal doctoring and things like that. I'm not great with accountability coaching. That's just not my skill set. Like, I'm not gonna call these guys up like every Wednesday and be like, how many calls did you make this week? And that's something that, like, beyond what I just said, but like having somebody who's an accountability partner on a regular basis was important for Amy when she went out and got coaching. And it didn't, like, here's the thing, like from a management perspective, that didn't bother me. It wasn't something where I felt like, oh my God, she needs to go out and get this, like, this exterior, coach to come in and help her because I'm not good enough. Like, no. We both have a role, it's just a different role. And so to me, like, I think a lot of it depends on who you're working with. Like, if you have a manager that you're working with who fills the need from a coaching perspective, like, there are great managers in terms of accountability coaching. Like, if you have that, well, maybe that's not the need you need to fill. Would you agree with?
Right, and the other thing I would say is I would go out or go on Amazon and buy the book Ninja Selling.
Yeah.
Ninja Selling was also like a game changer for my business. That Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, is a great one. And Steve Shull, the full fee agent, he actually wrote that book with Chris Voss. That's another great one. But Ninja Selling, I mean, I've probably read that at least twice, and I feel like that was a game changer for my business. But yeah, I wish I would have started on a CRM, like very in the beginning, get people in your database, and and get a coach.
I would also just say, don't be afraid to ask other agents for help. I mean, when I was a new agent, I was like, I don't know anything, and there were wonderful agents in our office that, were very patient in answering my questions and helping me not look foolish. But, again, going back to the whole thing of being a solo agent, and it can be isolating and it can be overwhelming, reach out to other people in your office and, try to find some mentors. And, they're going to help you. I find most people are happy to share their wisdom and their knowledge. And then at some point, it's going to be somebody turning to you for the same help, and then you'll get back. And I mean, I have so much gratitude for all the other realtors that we interact with that, you know, again, are able to, you know, help us with questions and you know, help us do our business better.
Got a question over here?
You said you changed coaching from that woman to the Tom Ferry. How did you know that you needed to change coaching?
So funny. It kind of came to like a natural end. I mean, she actually told me that she was going to be. She said, "I actually want to tell you that I'm leaving, you know, the organization." And she said, "I'm just waiting for my last client to wrap up." And I said, "Am I your last client?" I said, "I'm your last client, aren't I?" And she's like, "Yeah, you are." So, you know, it kind of came to a natural end. I think, you know, and I think it's common for people to also switch coaches. You know, I think sometimes like you can get a lot out of somebody, and then, you know, like they can bring you to that level, and then like you just need somebody else. And then I actually tried like a different, you know, coach from that organization. And it was, you know, and at the end of the conversation, she said to me like, "Amy, you could be my coach." So I was like, all right, well, this is not the right, you know, fit. So, and that kind of like turned me off, because I mean, I realized that, you know, even though I do a lot of business, I'm certainly not like the end all be all, and there's certainly so much to know, but it's finding that right fit, which is why you know, I was always a little reticent of, you know, of Tom Ferry, because I wasn't sure who I was getting, but I happened to, you know, like have bumped into him personally over the years. We were on the same stage at Wailopo speaking a few years ago, and then I just saw him in New York at an event, and, you know, and Jill Biggs also is, you know, very big in that organization. And when I was talking to him about it, I said, you know, I'd really love to be with your organization, but I just am nervous about not having the right fit. So he got personally involved and helped get the coach that we just started with. So, and now we're on, you know, now we're like at a different level of, you know, of coaching. But, you know, it's hard. You have to make sure that the person is a right fit. You have to do like these personality tests, and.
I'm gonna throw in one thing that I would add in is sometimes it's like everything else. Like sometimes it's the right coach at the right time. So it depends on what you need for your business. Like if you need to develop your CRM and you need somebody who is like system like orientated. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. No question.
Thank you.
Thank you.